The UFC White House card is locked and the predictions are in. Every fight on this card has a story worth telling, from the opener all the way to the main event, and the analysis that separates the genuine picks from the casual takes is worth working through carefully. This is not a card where any fight is filler. Top to bottom, Freedom 250 has matchups with real competitive uncertainty and real stakes, and the breakdown of each one reveals something specific about what Sunday night is actually going to look like. Start at the bottom of the main card with Diego Lopes versus Steve Garcia, because this fight sets the tone for everything that follows and deserves more attention than it typically gets in the pre-fight conversation. Steve Garcia is on a 7-fight win streak, 6 of those 7 ending by stoppage, most of them in the first round. His striking is vicious, his ground and pound is nasty, and he has the kind of violence-first mentality that makes him dangerous against almost anyone when the fight stays on the feet. The one fight where he did not look as dominant was his decision against Calvin Kattar, a step up in competition level where he won clearly but showed that against sharper, more experienced opposition, the limitations in his game become visible. Against Diego Lopes, those limitations are going to be tested in a specific and targeted way. Lopes has been training at Oklahoma State University, one of the elite wrestling programs in America, for the past several months. That is not a coincidence. That is a fighter identifying the dimension of his game that gives him the clearest path to victory and building a camp around it. If Lopes can get this fight to the ground, and Garcia, for all his striking violence, has not faced a grappling problem of the caliber Lopes brings, the submission credentials Lopes carries become the deciding factor. Garcia has the knockout to change everything in a single moment. The more probable outcome is Lopes getting the takedown, working the ground, and finishing by submission or ground and pound stoppage. Bo Nickel versus Kyle Dawkins is the clearest mismatch on the card in terms of overall trajectory, but Dawkins deserves credit for making it genuinely interesting on paper. He was cut from the UFC, rebuilt himself on the regional scene with 6 wins, most by first-round stoppage, and earned his way back. His knockout of Michel Pereira surprised everyone who had written him off as a finisher. He is a different fighter than the version that got released. Against Nickel, though, the wrestling differential is simply too significant to overcome. Nickel has one of the elite wrestling pedigrees on the entire UFC roster. His physical strength is exceptional. The description of picking up a trained MMA veteran by the waist during a gym session and setting him down gently is the kind of detail that tells you something real about the physical tools involved. His work ethic is elite. His improvement across every phase of his game has been consistent and documented. Dawkins is a legitimate professional fighter who has earned his spot on this card. He is facing someone who is operating in a different physical category and who has a specific tactical path, the takedown, the control, the finish, that addresses Dawkins' most dangerous qualities before they can become factors. Nickel gets it done. The Chandler versus Ruffy fight is one of the more emotionally loaded matchups on the card, because it represents the conclusion of a saga that has been running for years. Chandler is 40 years old, has lost 5 of his last 6 fights, and is coming into this against a fighter who is taller, longer, more athletically diverse, and who has been compared to Conor McGregor in terms of finishing ability across multiple methods. Ruffy is not just a striker. He is a finishing artist who can end fights in multiple ways and who has the kind of unpredictability that makes tactical preparation genuinely difficult. Chandler's wrestling pedigree and his chin are real. His ability to generate power and his willingness to engage are real. But the physical decline that 5 losses in 6 fights represents, and the specific athletic profile that Ruffy brings in terms of reach, range, and dynamic striking, creates a matchup that favors the Brazilian. The spinning wheel kick, the flying knee, the conventional combinations. Ruffy has weapons that Chandler has not faced in combination before, and at this stage of Chandler's career, the ability to absorb and recover from elite-level striking has diminishing margins. Ruffy by knockout. Derek Lewis versus Josh Hokett is the fight where the analysis should probably just acknowledge that Hokett has made it public that he views this fight primarily as a vehicle to the Pereira matchup he actually wants. That is not a winning mindset for the specific fight in front of him, but it might not matter because the physical tools he brings to this matchup are genuinely superior to what Lewis can offer at this stage. Lewis is 41 years old at heavyweight. His power remains the constant. One clean shot ends any fight he is in, regardless of the opponent's quality. But his ability to navigate 5 minutes of sustained output against a younger, hungrier fighter who brings genuine wrestling and volume striking is a real question. Hokett goes forward. That is both his strength and his potential undoing. Lewis's left hand has ended nights for people who walked into it. But youth, athleticism, and output over a full fight should favor Hokit. He gets the win without necessarily getting the knockout of the Knockout King. The Zahabi vs. O'Malley analysis comes down to the same tactical question that has been the spine of the conversation all week. O'Malley is taller, longer, faster with his hands, and has the step-back right hand as a devastating counter-option. Zahabi has unconventional striking, genuine grappling depth from his work with John Danaher, and 7 consecutive wins against legitimate opposition including Jose Aldo and Chito Vera. The argument against Zahabi in this fight is that he does not have the wrestling to take down O'Malley reliably. O'Malley's defensive grappling has been tested and has improved since the Merab losses. The argument for Zahabi is that his unconventional striking creates timing problems that orthodox fighters struggle with, and that O'Malley's tendency to set up the step-back right hand becomes predictable to a fighter who has specifically prepared to deny him that setup. O'Malley is faster and more dangerous in open exchanges. He wants to keep Zahabi on the outside where his counters can land. He has superior striking speed and the kind of boxing quality that judges recognize and reward. The pick here is O'Malley, finishing in the 3rd round when the accumulated striking work creates the opening his boxing precision has been waiting for all night. Now the co-main event, and the most interesting individual prediction of the entire card. Cyril Gane over Alex Pereira. Not because Pereira cannot win. One shot from the left hand can end this fight at any moment. But because there is a real reason why no fighter in UFC history has been a champion in 3 different weight classes, and that reason is not a lack of talent or ambition in the fighters who tried. It is the specific physical reality of moving between weight classes in a sport where the margins are already razor thin. Gane brings in a kickboxing sparring partner who has defeated Pereira before, Artur Beterbiev level preparation for the specific technical problem Pereira represents. He is faster than Pereira. He moves better than Pereira. He is a natural heavyweight who has never had to think about what happens when the size advantage disappears because it never does for him. Pereira is static compared to what Gane has faced. His fighting style relies on the physical intimidation factor that comes from being one of the biggest men in his weight class, an advantage that does not exist at heavyweight against a man who fought Francis Ngannou and Tom Aspinall. The power comes from the posterior chain and Pereira's physical development is genuinely remarkable. But Israel Adesanya knocked him out at 185 pounds, and if that is possible, then Gane, who is faster than Adesanya, more physically suited to the weight, and better prepared for Pereira's specific patterns, has a real path. The prediction is Gane by late knockout, round 4 or 5, when 5 rounds of pressure and movement have accumulated enough to create the opening that Pereira's defensive habits leave available. The main event is where the analysis becomes least controversial and most certain. Ilia Topuria over Justin Gaethje. The personal dimension, the divorce comments, the lost respect, the escalation at the Lincoln Memorial, adds fuel to a fire that was already burning at the hottest temperature Topuria has brought to any fight. The tactical reality is what it has always been. Gaethje needs to get this fight to the later rounds without absorbing the kind of clean, precise punishment that Topuria's system generates against fighters who come forward in a straight line. The best strategy available to Gaethje involves disguising takedown attempts with striking setups, using the fence to create dirty boxing opportunities, and avoiding the open exchanges where Topuria's speed and timing advantages are maximized. Whether Gaethje's competitive instincts will allow him to execute that strategy when the moment demands it is the genuine unknown. He said himself he plans to go forward. Forward and into Topuria's countersystem is the shortest path to a first-round finish. Topuria is younger, fresher, quicker, operating at the peak of his confidence with personal motivation layered on top of professional preparation. The career wear on Gaethje, the years, the camps, the stoppages, the November birthday that makes him 37.5 heading into this, matters against a champion in his prime. Topuria defends the title. He moves on. And whatever comes next, Tsarukyan, Makhachev, the welterweight division, the conversation about legacies, begins the moment the knockout lands.